Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ Ferry.
And I'm Chip Camara. How are you doing today?
And we're happy to be back here to bring you some more news and some information, as well as some follow-ups. We're filming this episode of Spindle City Straight Talk on Election Day here in Fall River. So we don't know what the outcome is yet. We won't know until tomorrow when we will be appearing on the Richard Urban Show to be discussing the election. And it should be an interesting show tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, I think it will be, and I think today will be a very interesting day. We've seen some endorsements in the Herald News, and I think that we can begin by talking about some of those endorsements. And basically, well, I'll start today.
You've got it.
I will start not with the mayoral endorsement, but I will start with a school committee endorsement that was given. I won't name the committeeman. You can look the Herald News up, but Herald News endorsement basically said that this person is the most ineffective school committeeman, and that he doesn't do much except second a vote occasionally. But it's better to have him in there than have someone who may talk too much or create some controversy. And unfortunately, I take a little exception to that. I think that the Herald News has lost a lot of its credibility with that editorial endorsement. The fact is, I think they failed to remember that some of the most contentious debate that ever took place in this nation was during the Continental Congress. Some of the people who wanted to create the United States of America were called traitors, and they wanted to hang them. And yet the Herald News will endorse someone for school committee because he won't bring up an opposing idea for a school system that's failing. That is just mind-boggling to me, that they call themselves a media outlet and have some honesty, and they actually put in print, it's better to have a devil that doesn't speak than a devil you don't know.
You know, it's interesting because with the endorsements that came out this year, obviously, I wasn't surprised by many of them, but I think the Herald News has solidified itself as one of the most ineffective and one of the most biased news services available in the country. I think Gatehouse, even of itself, has allowed this one particular paper at this time to just become the puppet of whatever administration, city council, school committee members may be. They don't really look at what may be best for the city or best for the citizens or the business outlook, but I think they look at what may be best for their pocketbook. And you know, Lisa Stratton, you're welcome to call us on it at any time. We haven't found that a lot of the stories are truly unbiased. We saw this recently with a reporter who was gung-ho in getting information on some of the mayor's questionable associates and questionable dealings, and it seems that that reporter has been shut down. We look most recently also at Will Richmond and some of his commentary in regards to the mayoral race, as well as the city council and school committee race. I don't think that a lot of it was very appropriate. Some of the commentary was taken out of context by many of the candidates and just was not used appropriately. And I think that, you know, when people are turning to the Herald News, they're turning to the Herald News for an unbiased news report. I don't think they're looking for what's best for the newspaper's bottom line or what's better for your advertising dollars, which is pretty much obvious to the people of the Herald News and the news media, the newspaper industry in general, when they see that their print publication are going down. I know many of the people don't even read the Herald News anymore. Just like WSAR, they're really not listening to that anymore either. They're getting their news on the internet. They're getting it from CNN. They're not even getting it from our local news stations. So if you're going to compete in a market, you need to be unbiased. And by catering to the people who fall in line with the incumbents, just so you can sell a few more papers or get a few more news stories out there, I don't think is going to really get something going for you. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Well, I agree, because if you really paid attention to the Herald News over the last few weeks, you'll see there was very little discussed about issues in this campaign. They seemed to disappear. No one talked about the increase in the water fees, the issues with the water department and the DEP complaints, the issues with the mayor having a $500 a plate fundraiser in Rhode Island where not one Fall River person attended.
And it wasn't reported to OCPF.
And ironically enough, that's a lot of money. I think they said he raised $40,000, and not one person lives in the city of Fall River. So I don't know. That buys a lot of ads in the newspaper, but to me, somebody's buying into the city. I don't know too many gubernatorial candidates who run $500 a plate fundraisers, let alone a mayor. And to have that kind of support from people outside this city kind of implies to me that somebody's buying their way in, because I know that they don't love Fall River as our mayor says he does.
Yeah, and what's very interesting is the governor was down here, and a couple of weeks ago at the Boston Chamber of Commerce breakfast, the Boston Chamber of Commerce asked the governor very clearly the fate of South Coast Rail, and he said there is no financing for it. And he again said that there is no financing when he was down here in the Fall River area, but he's just going to make it difficult for the incoming governor to back away from the deal. It's not difficult to back away from a deal when you've got no money for it. I've got no money, I can't do it. It's that simple. But you, the viewers, the people of Fall River, want to keep believing what the mayor, the city council, and the state elected legislative officials want to say, that you're going to get the South Coast Rail. Believe me when I say you're not going to get this South Coast Rail. I had a meeting with Senate President Therese Murray a couple of years ago, and she told me very clearly, and I'm going to quote her, "You will not see the South Coast Rail in your lifetime or in mine." And she was being very serious about that. The state legislative delegation knows this. The state Senate knows this. Our elected officials know this. And they keep saying we're getting South Coast Rail. Why? Because that's the carrot that they dangle in front of you to say, come and get it, and keep coming. And that's what happens. And you keep believing it's going to happen. It's like the ferry service. We got the ferry service for next year. We have it. How are you going to get there? There's going to be construction all down there. There's no way to get to the ferry. So again, you've got the carrot and it's being dangled in front of you, but there's nothing there to get.
Well, you're right. We do have a ferry here, but he's sitting alongside of me. But that's but we can't save the economy. But the reality is, this is the old political MO. They promise and promise it's going to be a brighter day. Someday this place will be the garden spot of the state of Massachusetts, and we're going to have a commuter rail. We're going to have a wonderful waterfront, and we're going to have all these things. While politicians, and I will say they are actually being supported by the lack of reporting by our media, continues to not address what's going on with the city today. It was Spindle City Straight Talk that talked about the DEP before the Herald News reported it. We talk about issues. We talk about what's going on today in Fall River. There seems to be a perception with the politicians that Fall River is in great shape. We do have a tale of two cities. We have people who can't make rent, who can't make their mortgages, while taxes and fees go up continuously. And there seems to be a total disregard for the plight of the people. And we quoted the pastor of Santa Cristo at our last show, who said, times are tough. Many of my parishioners are unemployed. Apparently, our city council and our mayor doesn't see the same Fall River we do.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary when you think about that, because Detroit is in a situation slightly worse than ours. Not much worse than ours, but slightly worse than ours, and they're in bankruptcy. Their pension plans are gone. Their health care is gone. I have a friend who just went out to Detroit, and he had to do a photo shoot for a company to sell what buildings they had left at greatly reduced prices. And somebody cracked the joke to him, I'll give you $20, pick me up 20 or 30 houses while you're there. And he was being serious, because you literally can buy a house out there for $1. And that's what Fall River's coming down to very soon. And people get upset with us. We got into a conversation the other night with several people about they're bringing them in from all over the state, and they're shipping their unemployed, their poor people to Fall River and New Bedford, because this is where they want them. This is where there's low income housing. And I made the comment that, well, maybe all those landlords should get together and just jack up our rents to $1,200 a month, and then that will keep everyone away, and we can start cleaning things up a little bit. And people started saying, well, then where are these people going to live? Well, the problem is that it is because we have low rent housing. It is because we have a slightly lower income base here in Fall River. And I shouldn't say slightly, it's 1/3 the rest of the state. And this is why the state says we'll dump them on Fall River. And other states are suing it. My son-in-law is a United Van Lines company, and he moves families here and New Bedford from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the Housing Authority of Pittsburgh pays him $15,000 to move each family from Pittsburgh to here. That's a 10-hour drive. Okay, they load up a big truck, and they load in 6 or 7 families into that truck, their furniture, and move it to Fall River. And they move it to housing projects and different homes, and they get paid $15,000 a piece. And the families get paid by the housing authorities money for deposits and everything else. But this is what Fall River's become. So when you hear the stories about the billboards and the ads all over the country, they may not be out there as much anymore, but it's still there.
Well, you're right, and we also have another factor that nobody wants to talk about. When a housing authority in Pittsburgh gets rid of some of their tenants, they don't give us their best tenants. They are going to make sure they get rid of the problems. And if they're going to pay $15,000 to move someone from Pittsburgh to Fall River, they're going to try to move a problem out of their housing authority. They're not going to bring. They're going to keep their best tenants. It's just a fact. And we get people coming in from all over the nation into this city. And you know, there is a need for public housing. However, this city has a disproportionately large amount of public housing. And the first way to begin to turn this city around is to begin to reduce down to the state minimum, like other communities do, because the reality is that our population has dropped even more dramatically than the statistics show. Because the fact is, we're down to 88,000 people. In reality, we probably shipped in 5,000 or 6,000 people over the last couple of years. We would be probably down below 80,000 people if we didn't have an influx of public housing. And that really doesn't do much for the economy. So that's the reality. And
not only are they, is Pittsburgh shipping us, not their best people, but, let's bring it back home. Charlestown, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, those cities and towns didn't send us their best either when they were shipping them down here. I mean, if you had looked at South Boston, say 15 years ago, it was a pit. Okay, you go there now, you can't buy a condo in South Boston for less than $200,000. I mean, it's beautiful to live in South Boston. So there's a big difference. And this is what they've done. They've cleaned out their housing authorities, and they moved these people into other areas of the city. But we're not the only city that's happened to. A lot of gateway cities that has happened to. So we're not against public housing. I want to make that perfectly clear. We're not against people who receive any type of public assistance. We're just saying we've done our share here in Fall River, and it's time for us to, let somebody else carry some of the weight. I'd like to bring up Ray Gamache, the Ray Gamache issue. From my understanding, Mr. Gamache is going to be meeting with the mayor on November 6th to discuss this issue that the mayor said he had no idea about. And we've discussed this on this show, and we've discussed it on another show. And first and foremost, Mr. Gamache, after discussing this issue here on the Richard Urban Show, after discussing it to Fox TV and to the newspapers, was basically assaulted by many members of the veterans community. Not physically assaulted, but verbally assaulted, and I feel that's very upsetting, to the point that Mr. Gamache pulled away from social media and from a lot of other services. He's going to meet with the mayor on the November 6th to discuss what's going to become of this, and I look forward to what will happen to this. But Chip, I think you have some very interesting things on how this should have been handled by members of the veteran community and by the community in general.
Yes, I think what's been lost in this process is we're not dealing with whether Mr. Gamache's son should get a monument. There's a section of the veterans community that says only people who die in direct combat should get a monument, and obviously that's a matter of personal opinion. I have my own opinion, but that's not the reason that we brought this issue to light. The issue was the way that a veteran's family was handled by the city of Fall River. That is the core issue here. Whether or not he should get a monument is really not even a salient issue here, because the fact is, what is the issue is that this individual, whose son served 2 tours in a combat zone, sent a letter to the mayor requesting a monument. It took the city 2 months to get back to him. Then they said they would give him a bench as a monument, and he had to pay $800. They charged him, and the issue here was the way the city treated its veteran and its veterans' families. I don't know if Mr. Gamache would have proceeded had this city met with him in 7 days and said, Mr. Gamache, we only get monuments for people who die in direct combat. Then he would have had to make a decision. Our issue here is not whether or not this monument should be erected. It's the fact that every single veteran and every single veteran's family should be treated with the respect that they deserve, because every single man or woman who puts on the uniform of this nation and serves can be sent to a combat area at any time and die. And because they were fortunate enough to come home, the service that they gave should not be minimized. I have a very close friend of mine who served in Vietnam, and I watched die a very slow and painful death from cancer that he contracted from Agent Orange. It's not considered a combat death, but as far as I'm concerned, he was killed in Vietnam. It just took a little longer.
I agree with you. And, we're only looking that all veterans and all veteran families be treated fairly and with a great deal of respect. And for all you veterans out there, we salute your service to your country. We appreciate everything you've done. And I know that I make it a point that every time I walk by a veteran, I thank them for their service. And for the families of veterans who have given the ultimate sacrifice, we thank you for that sacrifice, and we grieve with you for your loss. But again, we will fight for you if you need it. So if you have an issue, please let us know. But again, please don't attack the Gamaches. They are with you as a family that has lost a veteran, and they're just looking for what's right and to look what's fair for everybody. Another issue that came up this week is the COPS grant. They made a big deal of it just before the election, and it was very interesting, and I'm wondering how many people out there actually know this, but everyone says, oh, look, we got all this money for police. We got all this money for police. Yes, we got money for police. We got money to put some more boots on the streets. That's a wonderful thing. But did they tell you that we have to match that money dollar for dollar? Dollar for dollar, we have to match that money. So if we want all that money, we have to match it. So we have to come up with the same amount of money that they gave us. So I wonder how we're doing that, or how we're doing, because we've been saying we don't have it. So how come all of a sudden we have the money to get this money? I mean, this is interesting. And, Chip and I have talked about the magical money shifting process that goes on. Houdini comes in and waves his wand and money appears, disappears from somewhere else, but appears from somewhere else as well.
It appears that, we never get the full story. The COPS grant was written up. They didn't say it's a matching grant. So Where are we going to get the money? That's a very good question, because we do know that there were 14 firefighter jobs that weren't funded by the city of Fall River. Is that where the money is going to go? Were they aware of this grant prior to just before the election? Do they have the money stashed in some other account? Now we get back to another issue that we've complained about transparency in government, and about having a budget that everybody can read and everybody can understand, and have a budget that actually reflects what this city is doing with their money. Because we all saw what happened immediately after the budget with we need fees, we need bond issues, we need this, we need that. And so I don't know if the budget process in this city is even worthwhile. We might as well just throw a document out, approve it, because we're just going to change it, change it within the next 2 weeks anyway.
I guess we throw a dart at the board, and whatever number shows up, that's the budget for the year, huh? It's scary when we look at it. It really bothers me that we have to look at it that way. And we're going into our, really busy season very shortly, because we're going to be tearing apart the budget, and we are going to tear apart that budget here on the show, and we are going to look at it page by page, providing the mayor's office gets it out to us in a timely fashion. Otherwise, we'll be tearing it apart one day before the city council has to approve it like everybody else does. But you have to look at what's going on, and you have to know what's happening. We're looking at the fact that the city's been saying we don't have money, we don't have money, we don't have money, but we're looking at new police cars, we're looking at new DCM vehicles, we're looking at a lot of new vehicles all over the city. We're looking at some new and used. I found out we're also buying used vehicles now, which I found very interesting, in the fire department. So if we don't have money, where's all this coming from?
Well, it comes from the city's, this city seems to be a mini Washington. It's tax and spend, tax and spend. It's going to come from more bonds. The mayor in his debate was so proud of the fact, he said this city's financially healthy. We got our bond rating increased. Of course, he failed to mention the reason it got increased was because we leveraged it against the state.
Right.
And we used the state as a cosigner. But we are already somewhere near $500 million in debt to bonds. And it appears as though this administration has absolutely no qualms about bonding. Another $10 million bond is on the ballot today. For a study, which we talked about in last week's show. And it just seems so, okay, we'll just increase the debt, increase the debt, increase the debt. Well, we've seen what happened in Washington, and they can deficit spend. And theoretically, and I'm saying theoretically, we can't. But I think we do. And one of these days, as the old adage is, if you want to dance, you have to pay the band. And someday all these things are going to come due, and we're going to be a Woonsocket or a Detroit. And I will make a prediction that Mayor Flanagan, if he's no longer the mayor, which he probably won't be, will not be living in Fall River. That's why he doesn't own a home now.
Exactly.
Because he's got his bags packed, and as soon as his political career in this city that he loves so much is over, he will be out of here so fast that he'll leave a vapor trail.
I agree. Something came up yesterday on Facebook, which I have to bring up because you and I discussed this issue, and I believed you. I always believe you because I know you got your facts down pretty well. But a retired police officer has surgery scheduled for Wednesday, and the hospital called and said that they cannot get together with the insurance at the city to approve payment to the hospital, so he can't have the surgery. So this retired police officer is livid. He's like, I told my wife we should have moved away from Fall River. And when I explained to him that even if he moves away from Fall River, his insurance is still in, with the Fall River insurance program here, he was absolutely livid. And then I started to explain to him, which you can explain better than I can, that, the reason the city of Fall River is a self-insurer, which I have advocated for many, many years that they shouldn't be, is that they control the money. So they move it around. So if this month they don't have as many claims, they have extra money, they can move that money somewhere else until they have too many claims. Then they got to try to beg the money from somewhere else and move it back in. And I don't think that's healthy for our retirees. And our mayor actually turned around and sent Sean Kadim to Boston to have the legislation changed to give retired Officer Nero Farias, who worked admirably for the city and worked for years, to shaft him and his family out of their insurance benefits. And Sean Kadim's claim about it was, it's only money, so change the law.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't only Nero Farias. It's everybody who came under that particular part of 32B, the section about how retirees are covered and who is eligible for Medicare and who has to be put on Medicare. So there are still people who are getting the shaft, so to speak. But the reality is this is not something new, CJ. Unfortunately, this has been going on for years,
Yep.
especially with line of duty for active employees too. Because if you're injured in the line of duty, the city pays the bill, and it's not even run through the self-insurer Blue Cross, because it's handled more or less like a workman's comp, although fire and police come under 111F, which is a separate statute for injuries in the line of duty for public safety employees. But what the city has done on many occasions, and actually I was involved in many of these cases, because some of my men, when I was the president of the Firefighters Union, were the victims of this thing, where the city would attempt to negotiate the cost of procedures and actually delay these procedures while they're attempting to negotiate a lower price. And these men would stay out, injured on duty, and the city would now have to pay overtime to replace them, and these people would still be out injured for excessive amounts of time. I had one case that lasted almost 8 or 9 months before they finally negotiated, and we had to bring in the union attorney and basically threaten them. So this isn't something new. It's something that shouldn't happen, but it does.
And it's now becoming more public, and you, the viewer, now knows this. I understand you have a visitor for us today.
Oh, yes. We have another little prop here. We want to encourage, when we hope all of you go out to vote today. I know that when you see this program, it will already be finished, but if you will complain the day after the election about the city not going where you want it to go and you didn't vote, you really have no complaint, because people continue to use the excuse, we can't make a change, but we can. If we all go out and vote, we can make a change.
That's right.
And if you don't, they're going to pick Fall River clean, and this is what we're going to look like after they get through.
Oh, have we named this little guy yet?
No, I'll give you the honor.
Well, I don't know. Let's see here. It's kind of dark and scary looking, and I don't know. Shall we name him Will?
Well, sounds like a good name to me.
Yep. Will, that sounds good.
Where there's a will,
There's a way.
there's a way.
That's right. So, and for our viewers to know, we now have a separate Facebook page called Spindle City Straight Talk. We have created it at your request. We wanted to have your own page to go. So now our shows will also be aired on the Troy City production page and Spindle City Straight Talk. Until next time, thank you for watching. You have a great day.
Have a great day.